Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host Gershwan and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we jump into the Xenos of the 40k universe as we talk about the Squats. Well, technically they're not Xenos, or maybe they are. Well, let's just talk about them. These are 40 facts about the Squats. Squats are the descendants of baseline humans who have colonized the worlds around the galactic core in the far distant past. The Squats are short, stocky, and physically hardy abhumans who were adapted to the heavy gravity conditions that predominated on the worlds they had settled near the core of the Milky Way galaxy, and they are not a playable race in the Warhammer 40k game. The Squats' history is divided into 5 ages, each marked by a dramatic change in both galactic conditions and Squat society. The Squats' age of founding is equivalent to the Dark Age of technology, as described in the Imperial records. The Squats' ancestors were human colonists who reached the heavy gravity, mineral-rich worlds around the galactic core during the time of the initial expansion of humanity beyond Earth's own solar system. The colonization came at the right time, as the old Earth's own mineral wealth had been largely depleted. The worlds at the galactic core were rich in rare and unique strategic minerals, but in terms of existence of life, they were barren and unsuitable for human colonists. These worlds were dark and bleak planets. Their gravity was intense, usually 2 or 3 times that of Earth. Their atmospheres were either thin or non-existent. Once settled, these planets became rich mining worlds. The colonists were forced to become self-sufficient, providing their own underground, hydroponic ground food. Due to the hostile nature of these world surfaces, the colonists formed underground societies. Terra also kept the mining worlds well supplied with that which they could not produce for themselves in adequate amounts, primarily food. Interstellar transportation and communication between these planets and Terra was continuous. It was a testament to the importance of these colonies to the human homeworlds and the great federation of planets it once led. The period of contact and interaction lasted until the start of the Age of Strife in the 25th millennium. The Age of Isolation corresponded with the early part of the Age of Strife, around 18 to 16,000 Terran years ago. The galactic core was cut off from the rest of human space by the devastating warp storm that marked the dawn of the Age of Strife. Many worlds were swallowed by the warp and disappeared forever, while others were trapped in stasis and became lost within the swirling tides of the immaterium. Most survived their terrible period, although they were separated from the old Earth, and all contact was lost with the rest of the human-settled galaxy. During this time of isolation and danger, the Squat worlds, still in contact with each other, began to organize for their own mutual defense. It was at this time that the Squats began to refer to their worlds as the homeworlds. The homeworlds remained isolated for thousands of years, and their inhabitants learned to survive in a universe that would become increasingly hostile. Those that survived grew and prospered. Settlements were enlarged and fortified into strongholds. They soon developed alternative technologies to make up for the lack of supplies from Earth. The Squat guilds were formed as politically and culturally important parts of Squat society, and the Squat colonies joined together in leagues formed from complex trade and political agreements. The engineers produced by the guilds were true engineers, grounded in the scientific method rather than the religious dogma-bound tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, who understand very little about the true scientific principles that underlie most of the technology. The Age of Trade took place during a slight calmness of the warp storms that marked the Age of Strife and led to the Squats encountering other intelligent races, including Orcs and Eldar. At the beginning of the Age of Trade, some Squat strongholds were attacked, but the aliens quickly realized that the Squats were determined and tenacious fighters, and that trade and commerce with them was a more practical arrangement. The Squats took full advantage of their tremendous mineral wealth, which they traded for weapons, foodstuffs, and Xeno high technology. To this day, squat hydroponic plants developed with Eldar help are amongst the most effective food sources in the Imperium. The squats remained carefully neutral in the numerous conflicts between the Eldar and orcs, maintaining trade links with both sides. There were small wars from time to time, but for the most part the squats' complex structure of treaties and trade agreements maintained a stable peace. The Age of Trade lasted for nearly 3 millennia, but finally collapsed when an enormous orc battle fleet, under the command of warlord Grunhag the Flayer, attempted a full-scale invasion of the squat homeworlds. Losses on both sides were astronomical, with vicious tunnel fightings through the mine's workings and bloody pitched battles in the squats' underground settlements. The squats appealed to their Eldar trading partners for help against the invading orcs, but none was received, resulting in the development of a deep animosity amongst the squats toward their former trading partners. The Age of Wars, as it became known, is regarded by the squats as the blackest chapter in their history, and the double betrayal by orcs and Eldar gave rise to a cultural hatred for both races, which still persists. Many strongholds were wiped out by the orcs. Even in the 41st millennium, expeditions were mounted for the squat homeworlds in search of lost strongholds, and these expeditions were often accompanied by Adeptus Mechanicus tech priests, eager to rediscover lost squat technology. The Age of Rediscovery was the most recent past phase of squat history, corresponding to the Great Crusade, as the Imperium of Man emerged from the Age of Strife and began to reunite the scattered worlds of humanity. The squat homeworlds were rediscovered, and contact with the Imperium was established. The Imperium found that a distinct culture had developed on the squat homeworlds, and that the squats had moved outwards through the galaxy, expanding their own domains. Often they settled harsh planets similar in climate to their home worlds, but they also occupied more conventional worlds able to support normal human civilizations. The squat homeworlds were unique in the Imperium, though they were officially a part of the Imperium of Man and owed allegiance to the Emperor of Mankind. They were not directly controlled by the Administratum. The experiences of previous millennia had left the squats with a strong sense of cultural unity and a fierce independent nature, and instead of rejoining the Imperium as subject worlds of the Emperor, the homeworlds negotiated a series of treaties that enabled them to keep their local independence from the Adeptus Administratum's demands in return for military assistance to the Imperium and beneficial trading terms for Imperial merchants. The racial character of the squats, hardworking, tenacious, and honorable, was almost perfect for the Imperial point of view. The Imperium's High Lords of Terra were content to allow them a greater degree of self-government than normal, and avoid the nightmarish task of unleashing a war of conquest against such a powerful subspecies of mankind. In exchange for this freedom, the homeworlds provided troops for the Imperium, and trade exclusively with other Imperial worlds. This commerce made the squat homeworlds very wealthy. The squats also allowed the tech priest of the Adeptus Mechanicus free access to their advanced technology, as the squats possessed several STC technologies never before seen by the Mechanicus, and a higher proportion of working devices dating from humanity's dark age of technology. The squats were also expected to follow imperial policy in external affairs, which was not a problem as they were a very inward-looking and xenophobic society following the Age of Wars. Perhaps the most surprising aspect of the relationship between the squats and the Imperium was that the squats did not follow the imperial cult. Instead, they practiced a form of ancestor worship, venerating their dead clansmen and their families. They believe that when a squat dies, he joins his ancestors, adding his own honor to that of his forebears, but a part of their name and their honor remains with their living descendants, forming a constant link between the living and the dead. When squats served alongside the troops of the Imperial Guard, they adopted certain aspects of the imperial cult, incorporating them into their own ancestor worship. Imperial orthodoxy, as preached by the Imperial Guard commissars and priests who came into contact with the squats, told them that the ancestor spirits of the squats were watched over by the Emperor of mankind. The squats were happy enough to accept this idea and practice in rituals of emperor worship on those terms. During combat, the squats used squads of motorcycles supported by massive artillery barrages from juggernaut war machines such as the Land Train, Colossus, Cyclops, and Leviathan. They also used an advanced form of power armor fit to their smaller size called heavy exo armor. And those were 40 facts about the squats. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for part 2. It's going to come out pretty soon. So subscribe to the channel to get part 2 where you find out what happens to the squats. If you know, don't spoil it in the comments below. I'm just kidding. If you want to spoil it, go ahead. I think everybody knows what happens to the squats. But please comment down below and tell me what other race from the 40k universe you would like to hear about, other than the, main races. Thank you so much for listening. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.